Well, thank you so much, you all, for being here with me today. I'm Analee Vizcarra, author of A Legacy of Love, and I have someone very, very special today with us. His name is Michael. Michael, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for the invite, Analee. Love being here.
Thank you. Could you share a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Exactly. What are you looking to know? Something personal, something business wise?
Well, what you do for a living, a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I work with men and I help them to get into the best peak mental and physical peak shape. So the way I do that it is by exploring themselves in a deeper way. A lot of men that come to me have a hard time expressing themselves, being vulnerable, being authentic. They're playing a role, kind of like what you play on TV. And a lot of that is fake, and a lot of them know it, and they're sick of it. And so when they come to me, they're looking for a better way to show up in their relationships, show up for their kids, for their spouse, their partner, show up at work. So my job is to make sure we're getting in there and helping them to do that.
Wow, that is wonderful. And I bet we all have a story, right?
Yep.
Something that got you involved doing this. So what was it? Why did you decide to do this? You have a story. I know you do.
I do. I do. I've been a personal trainer and nutrition consultant for over almost 16 years now, so a very long time. And I came out of the corporate world before that. So I used to work for big corporate companies. I was operations managers, vice president, three-piece suit and tie every single day. So very different, kind of the opposite today. But what really propelled me into what I do now, the work that I do with men specifically, is I had a really bad breakup with an ex-fiance. And that caused me to have to go inside and do a lot of reflection work, do a lot of deep, what we call in the business, inner child work and shadow work, and examine ourselves, take a look at that piece of ourselves that is causing these things, like what's happening. And one of the biggest questions that I asked myself at that time when this happened, this breakup happened, was why do I keep choosing the same person in a different body? And that question didn't really give me an answer, but it gave me another question. The other question was, well, what's the common denominator in all my relationships? And it all of a sudden hit me. I'm the common denominator in all of my relationships. While on the flip side, they're the common denominator in all theirs, but it wasn't my concern at that point. At that point, me realizing that I was a big part of the problem and I played a major role in the decisions, the choices, my behavior, my actions, all the quote unquote toxic patterns that people would say, oh, that's toxic masculinity. They were there. My job now had to be why. So I had to go in and examine that piece of things. And what I ended up finding out was, I grew up with very loving parents and they gave us everything. But being first generation here, born here, and my parents are from Italy, right? They came here for a better life. They came here to give us kids a better life. And in doing so, there was that other side of it of they just didn't spend that much time with us. And that's no fault of theirs. I don't blame them for that. Absolutely not. It's just that that's what the life was. Both my parents were working. We were kids. We didn't spend a whole lot of time together. I wasn't the kid really playing catch out in the yard with their dad or anything like that. So a lot of that played a role in quote unquote my feelings of abandonment and not being enough. And I was always seeking approval and attention and validation. And I was looking outside of myself externally for all of those things. And when I really was able to do a lot of that reflection work after this breakup, I realized all of those things were adding to the issues in my relationships. And I was looking to my partner to be more of my cheerleader than to be my partner. I was looking for them to tell me, hey, tell me I'm good enough. Tell me I'm okay. Tell me I'm doing a good job. I'm a nice guy, right? I was looking for all of these things from them rather than to look inside and say, it's already here. I should believe in this stuff myself. I should be the one to be cheering myself on. So that's the big reason. After going through that healing process and making those realizations, it wasn't much long after that all of a sudden I decided I need to go out there and start helping people with this. And so the physical part of my job, the personal training and nutrition, while that's still about 25 to 30% of my business, a big part of my business is the coaching. a big part of my business is the healing work that I do with clients, that deep immersive work.
What would you tell someone right now that's listening and that they actually feel that what you just said applies to them, or that a lot of it connects. They
Mhm.
will connect to the point where, hey, that's where I'm at right now. I'm in this place and I'm just trying to play this role, or I'm trying to please someone. And I'm always needing that reassurance. That's how I call it, reassurance. Am I good enough? Right? I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Do you think everything's well with me? That reassurance that you depend on someone else to give you that validation or that value that you should find in yourself. What would you tell someone?
I tell them to slow down a little bit because when they're caught up in that, things are moving so fast and they can get really lost very quickly. They'll have that thought come in, and then all of a sudden, as quick as it is, it'll jump right back out. So they have to slow down enough to make that realization big enough so that they embody the emotion that goes behind what they're saying. Oh, okay, wait a minute. I'm stuck in this situation. Like one of the things that happened to me is I was going through a certification course and it was online. It was during the time of COVID,
Mhm.
very early on. And we were all stuck with our partners in the house, right? So I'm here,
Mhm.
I'm doing these online courses and they're all psychology courses. And I was looking and I was watching these psychology courses and I'm like, oh my God, I'm living this. I'm living with this type of person. So then what started to happen was not me just saying it like I'm living with this. I started feeling the emotion of like, oh my God, I'm actually here in this situation that they're describing with someone who's narcissistic, with someone who doesn't care about my feelings, with someone who is in survival mode and just cannot even deal with me. So I felt all those things, and in that moment I slowed down enough to say something has to change, and it has to change quick enough. When we make the realization, we have to change it quick enough. Do something,
Mhm.
doesn't matter what, but do something that starts to change the script.
Wow. I mean, I'm listening to you and it makes perfect sense. But you have to come to that place that you're willing to recognize that. And
Yes,
not everyone is willing to do that. And
absolutely.
you have to want to recognize that there's something wrong here with this equation. And it's okay if there's something wrong, but what's not right is for you to stay there. A
Correct.
lot of people choose that path of, what are people going to say? In my culture, which I would assume that that happens a lot in the Italian culture because
Oh,
they're
absolutely.
very similar. And other cultures, it doesn't really matter. You know what? I live to what people say. I have to pretend and keep the secrecy of what I'm really living in this home with this person. And I have to continue pretending that everything is going wonderful, but it
Right.
truly isn't. And you're the one that's hurting yourself, and you're the one that wants things to work, but it really takes two.
Mhm. It does. And this is the
Mhm.
hard part that I tell people, especially the clients that I work with, that you have to take responsibility and ownership of your role in part of that relationship. Regardless if you think it's not your fault, there is a piece that you're playing in. Even if you're staying stuck in that place, that's the piece that you're playing. So you have to take responsibility there. And that's the only way you can make a change. It's going to be difficult. No matter what, it's going to be difficult. My end to that relationship was very, very difficult. I basically lived in my car for almost a month
Wow.
before my apartment was ready. I didn't really have a place to go. So I put a lot of stuff in storage. So there were a lot of things that I knew in my head were I was already foreseeing that was going to happen. So in that moment, I said, well, how bad could it be? Because years ago, it was now 25 plus years ago, when I had a big bout with drugs and alcohol, I lived in my car for 3 months. So I had that experience already. I knew what was there. I knew what was ahead of me, and I was able to make that choice. It can't be that for the short term of that month of living in my car cannot be as bad as me staying stuck in this situation one
Most
day longer.
definitely. Most definitely. And if someone was to be curious or want to know a little bit more of the services that you offer, what kind of services do you offer?
Much of my services have to do with deep immersive work with inner child, shadow work. So we refer to those as businesses, inner child and shadow work. Really, it's getting to the root of the problem, and it all has to do with your core belief system. It has to do with how you feel about yourself inside. Now, that's easier said than done because what we have to do there is go backwards in time to examine some of the things. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not licensed in any way in that way. But what I do is I do come from experience in knowing what I've gone through, and many of my clients that I've helped to coach through the process have gone through. And I take those experiences and I play detective for a little while. And I find the puzzle pieces that make sense for you. And then we start to put things back together again. So my work is really about coaching, a lot of coaching work, deep immersive, getting in there, getting into the nitty gritty. I've been to therapists over the years, and I've had many clients who've gone to therapists as well. And the one thing they say, and I've said myself in the past, is that this work isn't done with a lot of therapists, and I'm not sure why. They don't have this kind of expertise. It's a very clinical, let's listen to you for 60 minutes. We'll hear you talk. But then again, that's all we're going to do. We're just going to talk. I'm going to let you just get your feelings out or get your thoughts out. And you feel good in the moment, but then where's the surrendering? Where's the processing of emotions? Because they're still there. I've done nothing with them. So that's the side that I deal with.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Um, what would you like people to take from this episode with you? What would you like them to know? How would they be able to contact you?
Hmm.
What message would you leave them with?
I mean, the most simple one is that the if you're looking for love, the only true person that can love you is you. And you have to start there because that's the basis of every relationship that you will have in your life is how you love yourself will dictate how you love someone else and how you want to be loved, how you receive that love. So that person will show up eventually, but you have to start there with yourself. So I'd say I'd leave people with that thought there, you know. Contacting me, they can contact us through our website at Danvers, Danvers, wellnesscenter.com and visit that site and they can see the bio on there, the services that we offer, as well as a contact form they can get in touch with us.
Okay, that's wonderful. And of course, I have to make something, funny, but not as funny, but a little special message.
Sure.
Of course, we want to know what happened with your life at the end after having those relationships that didn't work.
Yeah,
So I found out that you did find that one.
I did. I did. I found that I'm with her now. We've been together for almost 4 years, and it's been a great relationship. There's been a lot of tough times that we've had in our relationship, but she's been the only partner that I've had in my life, and I've been married and divorced. So I've been down that road as well. I have an almost 19-year-old son. There's a lot of things that I've gone through, and I have, and this is the one person who has been able to say, okay, as tough as it gets, as tough as these conversations are going to get, I'm willing to have them, regardless of how uncomfortable, how awkward, how painfully making squirm in your seat type of conversations. Those are the conversations that we have, and we're able to come out of it that much stronger and be able to look at each other and say, we got each other's back. Now, it takes time to do that, and it takes practice, and it takes a willingness. And I'll say this for the men out there, it takes a willingness for the men to be vulnerable, to open up, to be authentic, and to come to that point in a conversation and say, I'm going to be here and I'm going to do whatever it takes, because it's not easy for us as men. We're here as quote unquote the protectors and the providers, so we don't see the self-nurturing side, that loving side, and that takes us a little practice to get into. But that's what I would leave that with.
Yes. Well, I really love that message that you left about when you find the right one, you're going to work through the relationship. It's work, it's a lot of hard work, dedication, communication, both being very vulnerable, both
Mhm.
being willing to put, certain things on the side and say, we're coming here as these two individuals that We both have a lot to offer one another, but we also have a lot to continue growing and learning. We're not perfect, but we're willing to make things work for
Absolutely.
our relationship, for the people that are around us that know about this feeling that we both have, and we're willing to work things out together. And in tough times, good times, continue pressing on and go and coming forward and growing in your relationship. You grow the more you know each other. So I love to leave you all with that special positive note today. And thank you so much, Michael, for coming here with me
Thank
today.
you.
It was such a blessing and really an honor to hear your own story.
Thank you so much, Analee. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye bye.